Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm so happy to share this conversation I had recently with Alison Grun. She's the founder of FreeW. She's going to be talking about this enterprise that empowers women through motorcycle adventures all over the world. I'm actually really interested in doing this in the future, but we're going to talk about our love of motorcycle riding. I've been doing it since I was about 14. She has been doing it, I think, since she was about 13. She grew up in France. I grew up in the United States. We're going to talk about how motorcycling has improved our lives and dive into how she came across this idea that if she could organize trips with women to, in many cases, third world countries, there would be magic in the transformation that not just happens for the attendee, but also for the women that are getting involved in helping in the countries that she organizes trips around. So, Pakistan, Nepal, India, and more. This conversation explores what she's learned and how she's bringing this dream of hers into reality. Enjoy. Alison, thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for welcoming me, and really glad to be able to talk face to face.
I know. I have to share this story because it was so cool how we got connected and the fact that we have so many connections that we'll dive into. But one day I woke up and there was a post on LinkedIn and you had tagged me, thankfully, and you were talking about a few books that had made a big impact in your life, and you were talking about the Mindful Millionaire, and I was so touched and I was so excited to learn about your business that I wanted to have this conversation. But do you want to share just a little bit about like what caused you to tag me that day?
What? Sorry, what cause?
What I said, I'll just kind of start again. um, could you share a little bit about what caused you to tag me that day and the impact that the Mindful Millionaire had on you?
Yes, of course. Yeah, well, as I told you, I'm working on a social, what I call a social business. So, an enterprise that whose objective is to make profit, but to reinvest this profit and to have as a major objective to have a social impact. And so, in my case, is women and mobility, and using motorcycling as a tool for women empowerment and emancipation. And the reason why I wanted to share that is because, when you, especially when you work in the social business environment, you're a bit in between. You're in between for profit when you look for investors and in between NGO. And people need to put you in boxes. Either you're for profit or you're not. They don't see in the middle. And I was really struggling with the type of investor I should look for. And most importantly, I was really struggling with asking for money. And I had your book in my list, I don't know why, about the mindful millionaire. And I thought, oh, it's about money. Let me read it. And it came to me, and I realized my patterns and how my relationship with money was impacting me so much and making me procrastinate and limiting my business. And that's the reason why I felt I had to share about it, because that's something that we don't talk much about. And discovering it was really a kind of enlightenment for me to realize why I was struggling to ask for money and how it was limiting my own business and my team, and that's the reason why I felt I had to share about it.
Is there one thing that you notice that you're doing differently on the other side of reading the book? Like, how did it change things?
Well, first of all, there are a few tips you put in the books, like having money dates. So, for example, I just give you a very specific example. Even if I have money, I always feel that I'm going to be lacking some, because in my family, it's always been a bit like that we might not have enough money. And I had some, I wouldn't say trauma, but some experience younger when my father lost his job, or, you know, and I understood those patterns. And I was like, so no matter how much I have on my bank account, I always have this fear that I'm going to lack money. So now I have these money dates where I force myself to look at my bank account once a month to realize that I have money, you know, these kind of things. Or also one habit that I took, I was really struggling to look for funds. So the most important thing that I started doing with this, with the book, and that really like pushed me forward, is that I started sending a grant proposal and talk to investors. And I started working on a proposal with my business plan. And I started being more comfortable with money. But honestly, it's a long-term process, as you said in the book. But just being conscious of it, just that was super important for me. Just to realize and also be kind to myself and say, that's okay, Alison. You have this issue with money. Now you understand it. What can you put in place? How can you be helped? You know? And I also took a coach to help me with my business plan so that every week we would work through it. Because again, looking at numbers was like very, I was really doing it reluctantly. And so having a kind of, how do you say, when you have not account holder,
Accountability partner.
accountability partner, you know, that was also helpful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I have a question for you that just kind of came to me in what you're describing. And I think it'll lead into more details about your business, so we can talk about that. But if money was no longer a problem, okay, if money was no longer a problem, can you tell me how what you enjoy doing could impact the world? What's the highest and most beautiful outcome because of the things that you're doing, money aside? What's the outcome in the world that you would like to facilitate?
To enable millions of women break free from their fears and self-limiting beliefs, and be their true selves.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That's the
That would be
thing
the, yeah.
underneath
And
it.
of course, it's obvious, but yeah, through motorcycling. So our big vision and mission is to enable, in the next 10 years, to enable at least 100,000 women to break free from fears and self-limiting beliefs through motorcycling, and to access economic opportunities as well. So yeah, that for me would be, because I think there's a lot of power in motorcycling about the mindset. And I think that it needs to start within, you know, we can put a lot of things in place, systems and opportunities and jobs, but everything starts within, right? About having the possibility. And I feel that, and that's something that I see with all the women that I put on a bike, that triggers that. I can do it.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. You know, I'll just share for listeners, I have been riding motorcycles since I was 14, 15 years old. It's been a passion of mine. I've had bigger bikes, smaller bikes, scooters, you know, you name it. I've done dirt biking and road biking, but I've never done an adventure like what Alison is putting together. And so it's definitely on my bucket list now. We're already conspiring to how this could happen because I could see myself being a part of this. But I'm curious, what inspired your passion for motorcycle riding as a mission for women's empowerment? What started that?
So actually, I would say the thing that triggered it was definitely my move to Malaysia in 2014, I moved to Malaysia for work. And I've been riding bikes since I was a child. Like my father would take me on his bike when I was 4 years old. And I had my first scooter when I was 14, my first Harley when I was 19. So for me, it was always part of my life. And I was always like riding with my father's club, and my mom was riding. So I grew up around biking. And for me, of course, I didn't have too many girlfriends riding bikes, but I didn't have too many boyfriends riding bikes either, because I started very young. So for me, it was more a question of age than a question of gender. And I could see women riding bikes. So, however, when I moved to Malaysia in 2014, I started riding with groups of women riders there, because the group of men, I was 29 years old, they were looking at me, trying to pick me up and these kind of things. Not all of them, of course, but I didn't feel as comfortable as when I was, riding with my family and my club. And most importantly, there were lots of groups of women. So I started riding with a group of women riders, and something a bit, not crazy, but really remarkable happened, is that I realized that these women were actually living with layers of responsibility as mothers, wives, employees. But the moment they hopped on their bikes, they were different people. Like sometimes I had pictures on them on Facebook. When I met them in reality, I could not recognize them, because they were just so different. And as soon as they were on their bike, it's like their role like fell away, and they no longer were defined by those labels. They were just wild and free. And especially in a country like Malaysia, where you have a Muslim, Hinduism, lots of different religions, lots of traditions as well. It's quite a patriarchal society. It was really crazy to see these women transform on the bikes. And so that's a transformation that really stuck with me. And I realized that what seemed maybe ordinary for me could be really extraordinary for other women in other parts of the world. And for me, it was not about just riding. It was much more profound than that. And that's where I thought, I started thinking, that motorcycle can actually be a tool for women to discover the strengths that they already have, and to reconnect with their true selves, one ride at a time.
So beautiful. I think I shared with you in our communications that I went to Asia for the first time last fall. I was speaking at a conference in Bali. And when I first got there, I was completely overwhelmed by what felt like mass chaos. Like I didn't understand how anyone could be riding a motorcycle, even a car on the streets. It was so overwhelming to me because they're going in all different directions, motorcycles going on the sidewalk to get around the traffic. It was just crazy, and animals in the road. And I was like, how could anyone do this? Well, about 5 days into it, a group of people at the conference, guys mostly, but then two girls, were like, we're going to rent scooters and we're going to go out for a couple hours, and I was like, I wanted to do it, but I was also completely terrified at the idea, even though I've been riding for all these years. It's on the other side of the road, so you'd have to learn that. And then just the chaos. And so thankfully, I trusted the nudge and I got out there, and we were in a pack, which the pack makes it feel safer. And somebody was in front of me and somebody was behind me, and I could kind of follow their lead of where we were going. But I have to say that it was one of the most magical experiences of my life. And after, it ended up being like a 3 or 4 hour odyssey. And when we were coming back to the central Bali, we went through the rice fields and the sun was setting, and, people were starting to cook their dinner. And so you had this like fog or this smoke and the rice fields and the sun setting. And I just had this like spiritual out of body experience of like, how can this be my life? This is the most magical experience I could have possibly imagined. And, it could have ended there, but like I was staying for another couple weeks. And so or about 10 days. And so a few days later, I wanted to be back on the bike so bad. I went and I rented my scooter for like a week so that I could travel all around by myself because I couldn't get enough of it. And so I just really feel what you're talking about. It was so inspiring. And like you said, it was more mindset than the riding of the bike. I just had to believe that I would be safe, that I could take care of myself, and I also had to trust in all the other riders on the road. But what I started to notice is that it was like fish swimming in a pond. Like there was, even at first I saw chaos, but then I was seeing this like beautiful flow of life that I have never been a part of in that way.
Yeah, and I was gonna exactly say the same thing, that flowing that we experienced in India and in Nepal as well. But in India, I really saw it when we were entering Hyderabad, because I would say that this feeling you got riding with several people. Imagine, I don't know why, I cannot explain why, because I've been riding in groups of bikers like very long time. But when I ride with a group of women, it gives me shivers. I cannot explain why. It's like when we ride together, when we, for example, in India, we left, and of course it was a bit chaos at the beginning. And you know how we say that sometimes women synchronize with their period? I felt that on motorbike is the same. When I take a new group, we start riding, we need to adjust each other. We don't know, we're a bit hesitant at the beginning and so on. And by the end of the adventure, I'm not kidding. It's like, and I'm always closing the group. Usually I'm the sweeper, as we call it. And when I see my group of women in front of me and I see them flowing in the traffic seamlessly, it's like we are one. It's like we are single. It's really crazy. Like it really gives me shivers when I feel that, because it's yeah, we're just connected. You know.
It's so cool. What so you've been doing this since 2000 or 2020 is when you started figuring this out and starting to pull groups together to do this?
Actually, we conceptualize those adventure motorcycle tours for women in 2020. That's where I started, but then it was the beginning of COVID. So we had the trips planned, but we delivered the first one. So I had planned one conceptualized, and I had my local partners to deliver them in Nepal, Myanmar, Iran, India. And in the end, in 2021, we delivered, no, 2022, we delivered the first one in Nepal. And then we did India, Nepal last year. And I'm hoping we can do Pakistan next year. For now, Iran and Myanmar are on hold. But yeah, the first one, even though we conceptualized them in 2020, the first one that happened was actually in 2022.
Beautiful. And what would you say has been one of the most surprising or unexpected outcomes of your work so far?
Um, I would say the engagement. I mean, two things I would say that comes to mind. The first one is the engagement of the women that joined the motorcycle tours. They became, like, I would say that a good 30 to 40% of them actually got involved with FreeW from one way or another. So, for example, one became a sponsor, and she sponsored the scooter at our riding school in Nepal. Actually, one, two, three of them are currently working on designing tours for FreeW, because they realized that they love the concept and they wanted to meet the women of other countries, and they have contacts in their own areas, and now they want to become tour designers. One started working with me on the non-profit side of business to try to raise funds. So one started writing some content. I mean, that was really surprising to me, because they became much more than customers. They became part of the community, and I expected it, but not so much. And the other thing is the impact on men and the engagement of Nepali men. And especially my business partner, Sushant. So while we have, mostly team, we have 80% of women in our local team to deliver the tours. But obviously in some countries, it's not always possible because we train local women to be tour guides or mechanics, but this takes time. And what's funny is to see the engagement of the men and how they realize the importance of women empowerment, how they realize the transformation of women. My partner Sushant, he loves also coming to the riding school and helping the girls to learn. And now he's also, every time we travel in Kathmandu, he's like, oh, look, a woman rider, look, a woman on a scooter. And he's became so engaged in women empowerment and believing that women need to work and need to be dependent and self-reliant. And they see the value of that as well for their own peace of mind, because let's not forget that, like there is toxic masculinity in patriarchal society, so women's empowerment can also be a good benefit for local men. And that was really unexpected. In a way, the support of the male team, and we have a mechanics who wants to train women for free, our tour mechanics, and that was unexpected and very, very nice.
That's so beautiful. What would you say to someone who's listening to our conversation and they're thinking, oh my gosh, like that sounds so interesting, but could I really do it? Or why would it be worth, getting past any mindset fears I have or pulling the money together? Like, what would you say to someone who's interested in doing one of these trips someday? Yeah, I'm just curious about that message.
Well, that really depends on the audience. Usually the woman, the things that I hear most as kind of limitation or is the skills. And so these, I always tell them, it's not about the skills, it's about the mindset. And that's the whole purpose of doing a trip with us, is that we take our time. We are not there for performance. We are there to meet the women of Nepal, to meet the women of India, to meet the women of Pakistan. Yes, we do it by bike. Yes, we do crazy stuff on motorcycles and we step out of our comfort zone and we are in a safe, but because we're amongst women, we know that we're going to support each other. We don't have the male gaze that even I've been traveling with guys so many times, but even I can't help having this little voice in my head. Or will I be fast enough? Will I be a burden? I hope I won't be a burden for them, even if they don't ride better than me, but I still have this little voice. Whereas when it's a group of women, we just feel more at ease, there's less stake, so that's the first thing. And I tell them it's about being open-minded. It's about being willing to step out of one's comfort zone, and will take you anywhere you want. I mean, I had women who joined, they had less than 1 year riding experience. Of course, they struggled. The first day, she would be falling 10 times, but we have protection and we don't ride fast, and she's learning. And, in the end, she loved it, because she was there for that. Then the other can be a question of money or time. So money, for me, it's a question of prioritizing yourself also sometimes, and your experience, and saving some money, finding some sponsors, and, I also tell some women I know that have a bit lower budget, I tell them, well, bring a few friends, I give you a discount. I give you a discount on the trip if you bring 3 friends, and, or get a sponsorship. And then time, well, then again, it's the mindset. If you don't take time for yourself, nobody will do it for you. So, yeah.
I love it. The other question I think can come up, I hear from women is like, will it be safe, or will I be safe? Maybe not just on the motorcycle, but there's a fear of going to some of these countries because they've never gone before. Anything you can say to that?
Yes, I mean, completely. And I think that's the advantage of coming with a tour that is not really a traditional tour company. because it's a bit, I always tell the woman, like the type of people who would come on our tours are people who would love to travel solo and have really an authentic experience with local people, but who are afraid to do so. And so it's a bit like traveling solo without being alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
how I would describe that mostly. And honestly, I mean, there are dangers everywhere. And obviously, women who want to go on those adventures is because they feel they have a little fire burning, and they are not that fearful. Like, it's the society that put the fears, but deep inside, if they are attracted to it, like somebody who's not adventurous or if afraid of everything, they would not come anyway. But the people who come on our tours, they want to, and the fact that they do it with a group of women, with a local team, and that kind of brings some reassurance.
Yeah, I feel you. And I love that this is really to an audience of women who have that fire, who have that spark, who are like, how can I do things that are going to add a dimension to my life that I don't even have access to without resources, that someone like yourself are going to
Exactly.
provide.
Exactly. And the other aspect as well, to be honest, that's a big motivation factor. And that's quite funny because, I mean, funny. A lot of women who come on the tour, the first motivation is the fact that the profit from our tours contribute to subsidizing the scooters of women at our riding schools. And so there is this aspect of social impact and supporting other women. And usually that's their first motivation driver, But what's interesting is that usually they realize that the transformation and the support usually has been on the other way. Like often they are so inspired by local women and by, doing things they would never imagine they were able to do and being in a totally different context by themselves. It creates a kind of shock, and usually they are very inspired by the local woman and they feel more helped than helping them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they get back, yeah. I wouldn't say fuller. I don't know how to describe that, but yes, in the end, because women also tend to also prioritize others, instead of them. So it's easier to say, oh, I go travel to help other women, but most of the time they end up helping themselves even more, internally,
Exactly.
mindful, yeah, in the mind, and yeah.
That makes so much sense to me. I love it. What's the next best step for someone who's interested in learning about the trips and also being able to sponsor the women who are learning how to ride and also to lead tours? Where should they go?
So we have a website, freew.co. So www.freew.co. All our social media are also freew.co, so we can be found here. And yeah, and they can reach out to me, on LinkedIn or on the website and inquire about information, and I can give them all information they want.
That's beautiful. I love what you're up to. It sounds amazing. I encourage people to go and watch the videos on the website, learn more, participate in a trip. Who knows? I'm going to hopefully be one of those people in the future.
I
And
hope so. I hope so. That
I
would be
can't wait.
amazing to welcome you on a trip.
Yes, I think it would be perfect. Thank you, Alison, so much for being here.
My pleasure, Lisa. Thanks for welcoming me and having this meaningful conversation with you.